Richard or Rich Burns. We've got Kelly, Rebecca. I think we're good to go, correct? Are we good to go?
Well,
Is Brian Stewart on?
no.
We've got
Oh, yeah,
Benedetto.
Brian's on. Yeah, Brian's on. So we're good.
And what about Benedetto? Is Benedetto here?
Benedetto was on, and then there he is. Yes.
Okay, great. So let's get going. How's that sound?
Good.
Great.
I'm Jessica Rising, and I am the chair of the Economic Development Committee, and I officially call this meeting to order. And I'd like to welcome everybody. In accordance with the shelter-in-place orders by Marin County Health Officer for COVID-19, this meeting is being held live via webcast and teleconference via Zoom. Public comments are accepted and absolutely welcome during the meeting. There's two different ways that the public can comment. One is during the open time public expression, which is at the beginning of the meeting. And then at the end of each agenda item, public is also welcome to comment. Please use the hand icon button to raise your hand. And also, please know that this Zoom meeting is being managed by staff, not by myself. So sometimes it's challenging to see who wants to speak. So staff will work with me to ensure that everybody is heard that wants to speak. And I thank you ahead of time for your patience. So the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the October 13th meeting minutes. Were there any requests for changes? None. Okay, would anybody like to move to approve? Any committee members like to move to approve the meeting minutes as is with no changes? Rebecca?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, anybody like to second?
Second.
I second.
Benedetto, thank you so much. Okay, the meeting's minutes are approved as is, and we're going to move forward. This is the time for open time for public expression. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes, and 5 minutes is allowed if you're a spokesperson for an organization. Do we have anybody on the Zoom from the public that would like to make a comment or give some information to us?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, so we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is moving on to our planning. So the goal of the EDC is really to maintain and enhance the economic viability of the town's commercial districts through actions that attract and retain and nurture local businesses. And it's really important to have a roadmap and a plan on how you're going to achieve this goal. And right now we have 2 different documents that we're working on in relation to plans. One is the action plan that we finalized and was sent to all of you on October 27th. And also was presented to the council for input. This plan has specific actions and projects to help us achieve our goal. Anything that is on this plan is supposed to be approved by the committee. We talked about having leads or co-leads assigned to at least one project. And people should work on what they want to work on, what they're passionate about. And the action plan is supposed to be our plan. I view action plans as very fluid documents. It's like they change according to new ideas, new projects. When projects are completed, we roll them off. You know, there could be projects that are on there that the committee decides they don't want to work on anymore. And we really use the action plan at every single meeting. And it's, again, it really helps us focus on what we're going to specifically do and how we're doing with it. Again, this was presented to the council on 10/27. They had no requests for changes. They thought it looked great. And we're going to actually review and approve that for today by the EDC and then report out on a few items from this plan. We also have the draft economic development plan, which is an extremely comprehensive plan drafted for 2020 through 2022. Richard Berkson, you had originally designed and put together the 2018 version, which this one was pulled from. Elise also worked on this and I worked a little bit as well. It contains much more information, such as demographic information, various issues around the area that San Anselmo is faced with, possible opportunities the committee may want to take a look at. And also there's a potential for this comprehensive plan where people others than just the EDC can use this information because of the demographics. So past chair and EDC committee member Jamie Ginsburg has asked that we move the reviewing of the comprehensive plan to our December 8th meeting, where we can do more brainstorming and more working. So Jamie, do you want to
I want to clarify that. That's
Yeah.
not actually, that's not what I meant. So if that was
Okay.
confusing, I'm sorry. I guess just in looking through it, I feel like when I look around at our committee, I don't know who added stuff to this plan from this committee. That was really my point, is that I don't recall, since I've been on the committee, I don't recall when anyone has stopped and said, who is San Anselmo besides the like 2017 statistics that are in the document, which we all know are wrong because we know how many people have moved into town during COVID. Like, when do we actually stop and make a list together? Or is everyone just like, great, I'm happy to keep working on whatever people thought of before me, but I'll just keep doing it. So like, that's all I'm saying, is that since
Mhm.
I've been on the EDC, we've never paused and said, what are we working on and how do we get there? We just keep working on an endless list that Rich is amazing at updating and make look amazing and adds people to it and takes people off of it. That's what I've seen over the last 3 years. People have got added in and taken off of the same list. I'm just saying that I've got no stakes in it. I went through the list trying to find something to be interested in. And like, let's keep parking at the top of the list because that's something we should work on. Or do we stop and say, hey, let's have the equivalent of a retreat, since we normally never meet in December anyway, because people are on vacation usually. We're all going to be here on vacation. Why don't we do some kind of retreat where we actually discuss who lives in town, since none of us know, or we can try to figure that out, and where we talk about what ideas will actually equal long-term economic growth in San Anselmo. Long-term economic growth. The signage program is a great example. So, but it's also been on our list for 2 years, and I don't know what anyone on our committee does besides Rich on it. And that's all. Like, that's what I was like, what are our shining examples? The sign committee. And then other than that, I don't know. I mean, we did some amazing work on the parking committee because we didn't waste 100 grand to determine that we don't need to work on parking this year. But I'm looking for some signs of success and I'm not seeing it. That's why I was like, hey, maybe we need to talk as a group. And instead of like trying to assign each other to committees we don't want to be on, why don't we try to talk about what will actually help our town and figure that out together? Because I don't know that we've done that. I mean, I worked on Deborah's plan for 1.5 years, but I don't even know when that started because it started before I joined the committee. So anyone who's been on the committee longer than me feels like they've added to this plan. Great. I just looked around, I went through the list and I was like, let me try to assign people to committees, and I couldn't come up with it. But maybe I also just don't know what you all are interested in. That's what I'm asking. Like, what are you all interested in? Or what do you guys think is going to help our town? So that's kind of the question I was trying to open up.
So Jamie, let me ask you a question. Are you talking about the comprehensive plan that came out, the action plan, a combination of both, or what?
Okay, so maybe I didn't.
Is it
The
just
action plan, maybe I don't
overall?
understand. Is the action plan just our to-do list of the draft plan?
The action
Maybe
plan, yeah.
maybe I don't understand what we're working on, which is
Yeah,
a
the
great reason
action
we should
plan
have a
to
retreat to
me,
figure it out.
yeah, the action plan to me are projects that the committee has decided they want to work on to help achieve the goal. It covers a wide range of projects, but again, every single thing that's on the action plan should be approved. There are ideas that come through the committee. It's what the committee wants to work on. It's every project is voted that it's on it. And so the October 27th version of the action plan to me it has some components of in the past that were still carryover. It's what we worked on for several meetings with going through each of the previous action items you guys had, getting rid of stuff you didn't want to work on, saying we're not going to work on this right now, but we want to keep it on the plan just in case we do. And then there were a large number of items that were added that are absolutely new. Okay, such as like the communication and the marketing, the PR, the redesign of like a resource center on the website, the new business outreach. So
But
that's
Jessica, those are all new.
right.
Those are all marketing. So everything that's been added to the list is marketing, which I understand is this year. But marketing, is that our 10-year plan is marketing, or, do we have a 5-year goal that we're working towards?
Let me put it out to what are the other members, and like Richard Berkson, everybody, what do you guys think at this point? Comments, Richard?
Well, I'd just like to, to use a new term I learned last night, do a level set. First of all, going back to the 2018 plan, it was discussed and reviewed by the EDC. And I know I did receive comments. Jamie, I recall talking to you about it as well at one point. And of course, the action plan follows from that. What is the purpose of the document? It's to organize information about what the EDC is doing, organize information about the town, about its economics, about its population, as you noted. It's intended to help provide a common framework for discussion and hopefully agreement on, what do we want the town to look like? And based on that, we drive the action plan, which is much more specific actions to, in the short term and long term, help achieve that plan and the vision that the plan contains. And also, finally, hopefully that document will help market and promote the town and bring in the businesses that we would like to see, that we think would do well. Fundamentally, this is the EDC's plan. And given concerns that you've expressed, I would agree that I don't think the EDC should push out a plan that doesn't serve the community or reflect the EDC's views. If that's the case, that would be counterproductive. And frankly, I don't think we need to, like I said, rush this out. There is more work required for formatting and pictures, as you could probably see. But again, I think
I'm sorry, Rich, you're the most detailed person who's resisted being on this committee for years. And I guess I just want to know, do you look at this plan and you feel like this is a current plan for 2020, 2022, or did we just change the dates and move a couple of columns? Because that's my point. I want to be clear. I'm not arguing the stuff that's on there. I'm saying, do we just is that, maybe I don't know, because I've only been on here for a short period. Is that what we do, is we just change the dates every 2 years, or do we think of a new plan and work on a new plan?
No,
that's what I don't understand. I'm new.
Can I interject for a second, Richard? Do you
Brian,
mind?
you have the floor.
Yeah. So, and sorry, Richard. So I just want to try and provide just briefly, like a 1 or 2 minute context of what this is. And Dave, feel free to interject. I think the thing that differentiates this committee from others is there actually have been real milestones and timelines about what is done and is not done. So things have come off, things have fallen. I thought, and maybe I missed it, I was under the impression that the action plan had been gone through this committee and that people had said, yes, this stays on, no, this doesn't stay on. And I will say it's been my impression that some things stay on because we know in the context of San Anselmo, due to volunteer bandwidth or staff bandwidth, they can't be acted upon quickly. Like, so for instance, I will say with the long view, the parking conversation has actually changed within the context of this committee. Conversation has just moved from parking, what is it, to now it's subtly moved to a conversation around streetscape. So I contextualize your comment, Jamie, in terms of how might some of the new initiatives that people are engaging in, for instance, say the new business outreach, about which we're going to hear a report from you, Rebecca and Jessica, how might that fit into it? But I have found the plan to work within that context, and then I'll step back.
And
Thank
let me,
Dave?
if I could just jump in, Jessica. So, I totally appreciate where Jamie's coming from. We really, this needs to come out of this group. And we kind of have had this, we briefly touched on it at almost every meeting, but we haven't really taken a deep dive and allowed for expansive thought on what else could be in here. And I think to Jamie's point, these are very tactical goals, and they're kind of right sized for a group like this. But on the other hand, what are we potentially looking at in the sort of broader context? So,
Dave, I'll just say one last thing. I hate to take up all the air, but just one last thing for the people to grow up to I want to share it with the group, and I wasn't sure where it fit in. And this, Jamie, might actually go to answer your question and reflect, Jessica, your last presentation to council. So as I've alluded for, the county is stepping back from economic development, providing an opportunity for localities to step in. One of the two documents that have been shared with me is an economic development plan out of San Francisco and San Mateo, okay? And I know there are conversations in other communities about how they might partner with San Anselmo. I have not shared those documents yet with the community, with this council, because to be honest, I didn't think it made a lot of sense for me to share 150 pages yet with the committee without having reviewed them first. I didn't want to put people through that. So that might be something to share with this committee and say, hey, look, here's some other opportunities that Jamie might fit in. I just want to share that and why I haven't shared those documents yet.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else have comments? Kelly?
Rebecca, I think actually had her hand.
Oh,
raised.
okay.
Let's let
Rebecca?
go. I'll go after her.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I think, like, I'm new to this committee. This is probably my third meeting, and the reason I joined was because of wanting to welcome new businesses. So proposing having this welcoming committee, and it's a real thing. And I've been doing it, and I've been networking with all these new businesses and connecting the two of them together and coordinating events for them. And so, like, I just went to DG Cafe this morning. He's been open 2 weeks. It's super quiet. He's very nervous. He doesn't have enough business, but I just put him in touch with the St. Anselm school people because they are in session. And so he could do like a drive-through, mom coffee thing. I mean, he doesn't know because he doesn't have kids at St. Anselm, for example, or even that they're in town. So I feel like I joined and I'm doing something that I am passionate about. So I can speak for like actionables. I think it's working for me, but like, if there's something someone feels is missing, then speak up and we can attack it and make it fix it. But I feel like I feel pretty good about where I have my name next to stuff. I'm actually doing it and I feel really good about it. So I don't know if there's a need for.
That's a good clarification, Rebecca, and I'm glad you're working on those projects, enthusiastic about them. And I do see a list of our projects that we are enthusiastic about. I guess in a year and a half, we have never asked town staff, how are our long-term projects? Where do you feel like do you think the way our town looks, is that going to be recruitment long-term for residents? Like, are we in the right niche? I'm just saying, like, we haven't not once in 2 years, asked staff anything opinion-wise. We've just worked on our list, right? And they're here with us, so we know they're in alignment with us. Otherwise, there would be discussion and argument against. but it's never once been a question of what do you think? And just saying, like, we had the Marin Economic, Mike Blakely, he came in and talked a bit, gave his pitch, but like, really, where are we? It's the fall of COVID. Where are we? Like, what are we, like, I look at that and I'm like, Rebecca, please update me over the next 2 months as Clive panics because no people are coming into his cafe. Like, we discussed this 3 weeks ago before he opened, that he's going to be bitter 1 month out that we didn't bring him new clients. And I appreciate that you're going back to stop. We'll do the check-in. We'll be like, did you get your ribbon cut? Did you get some press? But then he's going to forget all that. And in 6 weeks, he's going to be like, man, no people came in. Thanks, San Anselmo. And we all know this going in, so it's not a surprise. What I'm saying is that's not our role. We're not there to bring people into people's businesses. That's not what we do. But economic viability is so interesting. I don't know that we just need to put lipstick on and smile and tell people that we're an amazing town. I think maybe we need to do some work and figure out, who are we? Who are all these people that moved into town? Do they all have kids? Because that's where I feel like it is. When I look around, I see all these carriages. I see a shit ton of puppies. Got one. So like, I feel like the town is actively changing. In the last election, we just saw this. Like, you know, the ex-mayor and his push of signs is still 1,600 votes. That's what we just learned. He still carries 1,600 votes. It's probably every sign he bought. Is that the reflection of the town? Because we're 12,000, 15,000 people.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm gonna say, because I'm official, even though I'm facilitating, I'm a member, and so I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here. We have to start off somewhere and get going on things. There's nothing that I see that stops us as a committee from coming up with new ideas to propose projects to the EDC and add it to the action plan. I don't see any roadblocks as your chair for that happening. I see that we need to do more involvement of the stakeholders in the process of planning. But as a business consultant who has done a lot of work with launching initiatives and teams, I think the worst thing you can do is spend a lot of time doing planning and not a lot of work showing progress and getting things done. So to me, I like to work on projects where we have something that's working right now, where we're getting things done, where we can show progress. And Jamie, I agree with you on the businesses. You know, there's a lot of like concern, the weather's changing. And I think we really need to be out there trying to determine what the needs and expectations are of our businesses as we go forward and adapt the action plan to show that. But I don't think we should not move forward on things because we've already got like an action plan that everybody worked on, where to me, it's a starting off point, that it's the beginning part. It's expected to change. It's expected we're going to add new projects. So I agree with you, but I also don't want to start over again.
I'm not suggesting starting over. I'm suggesting that in December, it wasn't actually today. I was saying in December, can't we meet and add projects? Like, since you are for adding projects as chair, and since you inherited all these projects, which I inherited, I didn't add any to that list. Maybe we could do that in December and not waste time today. We can just nail things on the list like we usually do.
Okay, so what you're asking for is for December 8th meeting to be focused on strategic planning. What does everybody feel about that?
Can I say
Rebecca or Kelly?
Can I just input just one thing? The one thing that I mean, I applaud you guys for all the work that went into the plan draft. And Richard, you worked tirelessly for this, and it's great. Like, it's super great from an historical standpoint too. So I do think we should add lots of pictures and all of that. But when I get down to the action plan part of it and the goals, like, to me, that's where we maybe should be focusing on some work, because our goals, I don't think really are reflecting maybe how the town might be changing. Because it says the small town character, scale, and pace of life in San Anselmo shall be preserved, as shall the town's close connection with the natural beauty of its setting. and then maintain the economic viability of the town's commercial core. I feel like we're kind of at a crossroads, and that seems really outdated to me. So maybe we need to be more ambitious and dynamic with our overall goal, and maybe that will then help set the tone for the rest of it. I don't know. That, to me, that's where I think we should focus a bit, and we can also get going on all the tactics and all the different things, which I think are great. But if we come back to showing everybody what our goals are, like, the goals aren't very lofty, and I'm not sure that we want to just preserve. I think we actually want to move things forward. So that's just my thought.
Madam Chair, may I make one final comment as
Yes,
it pertains to this? Yeah, so Jamie, it's an interesting comment. It's an interesting discussion you brought forward. And, and at the same time, I want to say, Jessica, I appreciate your focus on deliverables. It just so happens, serendipitously, today, that the mayor-elect of San Rafael is coming to San Anselmo. And she pointedly says she wants to come to San Anselmo and come to Creek Park and have a discussion over what our Economic Development Committee has done. That is to say, the nexus between the wayfinding, the closed streets, and the park, and all of this kind of stuff. And our conversation today is in fact geared specifically to how we might partner together. So to the extent that Madam Chair wishes to agendize this item, I will commit to connecting with you beforehand, Jessica,
Okay.
to see if I can memorialize what that synergy is, okay, for that potential conversation. And I will try and parse through, as I said before, these 150-page documents, which I don't feel is appropriate. That may help inform the conversation that Jamie wants to connect to the existing action plan, which forms a basis for what's going on.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Can I
More
say a
comments?
couple?
Rich?
I'd like to add a couple of sentences. I've been a member of this committee for 5 years. All of the things that are being said this morning are quite fascinating in terms of, particularly from Jamie, in terms of expressing what I have to interpret as a level of frustration that there's not more forward progress. Before getting involved in this committee, I don't think I'd ever been involved in a government entity like this and the way it functions. There've been a lot of people in those 5 years who have come and gone from this committee, and I'm not so sure I'm pointing fingers at anybody, but there's a whole lot of them who probably never contributed anything. People who would miss meetings, people who never said a word in meetings, people who took no ownership of anything that was on the action plan. This is a volunteer organization. It's driven by the passion and the interest of the people who are on this call. The way things get advanced is if somebody decides that they really want to make something happen, own it, and become its champion. And for the most part, as a champion, do the work. The subcommittees, in my experience, they're flash in the pans. A couple of the ones that I've been on have had interest for a very short period of time, and then either people leave or they get distracted or they have nothing to contribute. So I guess the bottom line on all of that, what's on our action plan, there's a lot of really good substantive stuff. I think it's really a matter of each of us deciding that we have something that we want to make happen, that we want to contribute, and then we need to do it. I think a good example of that is the traffic study. Somebody mentioned it earlier. We saved $100,000. That was Scott's initiative, and Scott's, whether you can say, well, Scott's an employee of the town, but I think this was a focus he took on and took the time out of whatever his day job is to make that happen. And so I would say for each of us to take a look at that plan, find the thing that you think is valuable and that you can own, and then you can take some stewardship and make a contribution and make it happen. But to sit and have these conversations about master planning, been there, done that. And, you know, here we are 5 years later. I think the town is remarkable. I think this committee is remarkable. I think it's accomplished a hell of a lot. But to get frustrated that it's not moving faster, the sign program, which everybody points to as being some sort of a seminal accomplishment, I kind of facetiously say, you know, in the private sector, that would have been a 6-month job. It took us 5 years. So, and I'm, again, not casting any aspersions. I'm just saying that's the reality that we're dealing with. We all have day jobs. We all have day lives. And this is something that we've come together once a month and think we're making something happen, but it is what it is. So that's my 2 cents. And sorry if I'm pontificating.
Thank you so much, Rich. Other comments from other committee members?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I believe that what we have just discussed, good morning, everybody, shows that in a sense, what Jamie is asking for is actually due. I agree with Jamie, and it's not to criticize what we've been done so far, that the signage is the best, really an amazing project. It was done by Rich and little some time from us, some input, but he did a great job. And the town clearly, because the town had the resources to make it happen, financial and manpower and all of that. So I believe that we should really reconvene and decide what we can do. And I agree with Rich, you know, and then somebody can take ownership of a specific project, but I think we need to do it. And less is more, so we should really see what is doable, which resources we have, because we can have great plans, but if you don't have the money or the manpower or the volunteer time to make it happen, we are really, I'm sorry, wasting time. Every time I attend these meetings, I try to be in Dave and Sean head and Elise and thinking, if they're thinking, do I really have to listen to this, or I should go and do my jobs? No, I'm serious about that. You know, our job is kind of filtering what the town should really focus on, considering the limited resources, time, money of the staff of the town. So let's stay focused on what this committee should do and can do, and let's not, you know, try to be everything to everybody. Is impossible because of the time and money available. You know, so that's my recommendation. That Jamie idea, I believe, is due. Let's figure out what we are, what we can do, what we want to do, and let's move from there. And then, and this is not a critique of Richard's plan, that is great because it's based on what we have been talking so far. So that's good. I think the plan has nothing to do with the goals. We should maybe decide the goals, the strategic goals, and then the plan will come out from that, not maybe vice versa. Because in a sense, yes, we've been going through the motions now for a while. Thank you anyway, everybody.
Thanks, Benedetto. Other comments? Brian, Rebecca, anybody? John, any comments?
We can fit 16 people inside the hub if you want to have the meeting inside the hub safely with masks on.
Jessica, can I?
Yeah,
ask you a
Sean, go
question?
ahead.
And this is just switching to the rest of the agenda because I have to go to a meeting soon. Do you want an update on the parklet guidelines? And if so, let me know. I can give that before I have to leave. If you can bump it up, that's all.
Great. What time do you need to get out?
I gotta leave in about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, thanks. I'll make sure that we get that in. So let's go revisit, because there were 2 things that were on the agenda today. One is the action plan, which we spent many meetings going over, and it's a flexible, fluid plan that can be added and changed and starting off point. And then the other is the really comprehensive plan. And then we also have the bigger picture of, you know, is what we're working on really what is needed, you know, and meets the needs and expectations of not only the businesses and the business owners and the landlords and the community itself. I mean, do we want to take a little bit more time on the comprehensive plan and really taking a look at the big picture of things? And that, is that in a good nutshell of what it is that we're looking at right now? So I guess the quick question is, how are we going to move forward? What exactly are we trying to decide here? You know, if we don't, let me ask you a question of the first question. Is everyone okay with moving forward with the action plan that we have, the fluid document that we are working on right now with the things? Can we live with that? Can we adopt it with the understanding that it can change at a moment's notice by committee members? Can I have comments on that?
I'll comment. I think I'm fine with it. My one worry is that it's really big, and I feel like we need to prioritize, and probably it's the kind of interesting because it's sort of like a tail and dog thing, you know, like, do we decide what the most important thing is for us to get done, or is it kind of dependent on what the staff, like what they're working towards, and maybe even also town council, like what, you know, what's happening there. I just like to make sure that we prioritize what would be most helpful, because we kind of do building blocks for things in a way, to work towards a bigger, you know, a bigger goal. So that would be my only thing, is just to make sure we prioritize. So if everybody is working on, you know, their first priority, making sure that's getting done, and then maybe we'll have more of a feeling of accomplishment at the end of the year for every member of the committee. So that's just my thought, because there's a lot on there. So I look at that and it can be a little overwhelming. And I think, you know, we leave the meeting and everyone has great intentions, and then we have a month, and then we come back and sometimes nothing has changed. So let's just make sure we're not, you know, dumping too much on everybody and then not knowing which one is the most important one to work on. So that would be my thought.
So you would be fine with the action plan, but we need, as a starting off point, but we really need to drill down and prioritize the action items so that we know what we should be working on first. Okay, other comments on the action plan itself and whether to move forward with it? Yes, Dave?
Oh, I just wanted to kind of circle back to the idea that Jamie brought up, which is, you know, have we, I know we have purposefully tried to kind of look at this and make sure it's what we want moving forward. And I know that a lot of these things are sort of continuations because you can't get it all done within 2 years. But do we want to have a sort of a more open-ended discussion about what things might, like, Jamie, are you looking for an opportunity to have a larger discussion to maybe add to this or to blow it up? Or I'm not sure exactly, but I feel like, you know, we have very little participation from the public. I know we got to make sure we have a person here now that I want to make sure has a chance to speak. But I you know, is this a matter of kind of having some time set aside to just look at this? Because we need to go back to council to kind of get it finalized and have them approve it. So do we want to have a meeting where we, number one, kind of do the prioritization that Kelly's talking about, which is an interesting thought because there are a lot of competing constraints. And number two, do we want to also have that meeting as a chance for people to sort of offer new ideas or maybe longer term, you know, it's kind of, it's twofold. I know this is very tactical, and this is the way we've approached it since the birth of the committee, where we have things that we work towards and we have subcommittee work and all that, you know, and it's very incremental. But I think, you know, we haven't really had this sort of almost like brainstorming session where we say, what are we missing? What are we looking for? Are we looking at zoning? Are we looking at housing downtown? Bigger picture stuff, you know? So anyway, maybe that,
And
you know.
Dave, can
Yeah.
I interject there? I just want to be clear that we all agree on this action plan and have been doing this action plan.
Right.
But, and you know better than I, because I just inherited someone else's action plan and I
Right.
did maintenance on that action plan.
Yeah.
So I feel like, Jessica, if you think that you're inheriting my action plan, you're inheriting Deborah's action plan, who you probably never even met because she was gone a year ago, or unless you know her from town walking your dog. To be clear, I'm asking for a brainstorming session. I'm not asking to attack the action plan. And I do think we need to update our interpretation of town. I'm sorry, I don't even know what our town is like today. I just feel like it's different. I see so many different people. we should make sure we're serving the right people and that we know what we're working on. And Kelly, we've been on subcommittees semi-effectively together over these last 2 years. And I know that there's a long term to it. And Rich, your 5-year plan, like, of signage is amazing. Like, and it's just a mystery as to how it all happened. And equally a mystery as to how it took so long. And I don't want you to think that I'm frustrated. I'm not. I'm like, I know we're supposed to be on a long, that's why I said 10-year plan, 5-year plan. I want to keep putting that out there, that are we working on a 10-year plan? Because that's a like interesting thing that I just don't know.
Well, if I could just step in, that's interesting you say that, because when the town does their work plan goals, we typically will have short-term, medium-term, and long-term. You know, that's kind of how we separate it out, because there's things that are going to take 10 years to get to, you know? So that, you know, that's a format that works for, you know, for the town. And maybe what you're talking about is that type of format where these are all things that we want to get to in a certain amount of time. The plan typically is a 2-year plan, but it doesn't have room for those larger sort of discussion items. So, you know, I think, you know, personally, I think a brainstorm session would be a healthy next step for us, and combined with prioritization. And the results of that would be what we take to council.
You know, Madam Chair, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
So what's striking to me is this conversation, is sort of listening and thinking back, is we're actually supposed to today get reports on brand new initiatives championed by people who seem to be interested, who put their hand up at the last meeting, right? Like, that has sort of happened, right? We are getting an update about the new business onboarding program, which didn't exist a few months ago when I joined the EDC. It was not part of Deborah's repertoire. We're getting an update about attracting new businesses. So on a certain level, like, that has already happening within the actual confines and execution and time devoted of committee members. I just sort of want everybody to sort of keep that in mind. Whether or not those two are actually on the action plan is sort of a question of form over substance, right? But to whatever the format is, the chair has allowed, you know, that we have created a committee that people have felt comfortable sort of creating and taking ownership within the space of the action plan, right? We have not been so rigid as to be like, no, because I'm actually really want to get to the update from those two things, particularly the business onboarding program, for which I've touched upon. I just sort of want to touch that, bring that touch point within whatever the conversation is in December, however that manifests itself.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, what I would like, based on what I'm hearing, what I would like to propose is that we move forward with the action plan and then also incorporate a strategic planning session that would involve brainstorming in December, and see big picture where we need to go. So let me put it out to that. Comments? With the December 8th meeting, Rebecca? You need to unmute.
I'm saying yes, I think we should do that meeting. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, for it.
Anybody else? I can't. Brian, are you okay with it? Benedetto? I can't see Brian.
I'm okay.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Rich, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Move forward with the action plan and then do a brainstorming strategic planning session at our December 8th meeting.
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, Kelly? Is Kelly there?
Yep, sorry.
Are you okay with that?
That sounds good.
Okay, so then I move that we use the.
Hold on, Jessica. Let's take
Okay.
public comment first.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anybody out in the public that would like to comment on this?
No
There's
one has
one.
their hand
yeah.
raised. Sorry.
No, I saw you were here.
There's someone in the public, but they don't have their hand raised. So I think we're good. I'm giving them a moment. Yeah, they don't have their hand raised.
Nobody, okay. So then what's on the plate to vote on is to use the December 8th meeting for strategic planning and brainstorming on what's next, big picture. I'm in favor. Anybody else? Jamie, Rebecca, Brian, Benedetto. Okay. All right. It's approved as is. Jamie, we can talk offline with Richard and a number of people about this session on December 8th. Thank you so much for everybody. The action plan itself, do we have approval to move forward with it in its current state with the understanding that it will most likely be changing in the future as well? Everyone okay with that? Or actually, can I actually ask for public comment on that before we vote on that? Sarah, any public comment?
I'm seeing none.
None. Okay. So Kelly, are you yes or a no? Okay, Rich?
Good, yes.
Benedetto? Rebecca? Okay, Jamie? Can't see you, Jamie. Are you okay with?
He
Okay.
nodded, yeah.
Okay, great. And then Brian?
Yep.
And Rebecca. Okay, good. All right, then it's moved as is that we move forward with the action plan as is right now with the understanding that it will be changing. We will be having a strategic planning and brainstorming session scheduled for our December 8th meeting, which planning for that will be forthcoming, and we will involve everybody in the process of the design of that strategic planning session. So with that, I'd like to move forward on our agenda items where Rebecca, you want to give a report out on the onboarding and welcome program.
Wait, Jessica, weren't you gonna
Yeah.
have Sean go first so he can?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
Sean, go ahead.
Thank you so much. So parklets, you know, when COVID first hit us, the town adopted an outdoor activities permit and an urgency ordinance. And since then, as you probably have seen, there's been a lot of different parklets that have gone up. A lot of them, some of them are in parking lots. The ones that are on the avenue, some of them were temporary in the beginning, but everything's starting to morph now. If you've seen Nev Hawk or The Long Way, I believe it's called now, she actually, Chris, built a really nice parklet out there. And I think it's going to be in magazines and everything. It's by a well-known designer. And you know, she's actually even looking at, you know, does she want to do any kind of roof or not? Cucina is also getting ready to move forward with a more permanent parklet in 2 spaces with a roof and heating. The Thai place on the avenue has a parklet on the sidewalk. So everything is kind of changing as we go into winter. The big issues for us in trying to actually come up with a permanent parklet process that we bring to council to see if we can make them indefinite. You know, ADA is an issue which we've been able to address fairly well. But then also, of course, we don't have an easy town to do certain things in, like, you know, working in a floodplain and drainage issues. So drainage with the parklets is something that we've been trying to work on, and making removable sectionalized decking so you can get access to the gutter pan. And then also, you know, making them so that they're flood proof in terms of moving and allowing water through them. The one over at The Long Way actually has flood vents on both sides and it's bolted down. We're also doing a geomorphic hydraulic study to show that the removal of, like, Imagination Park building that used to be here, removal of Building Bridge 2 and other infrastructure more than offsets the amount of water that would be backed up by these parklets. So there's different things going on with all of this. And I'm hopeful that we can, you know, come to council and see if council would be willing to approve an indefinite permit process, which Dimitri and I are working on, and hope to bring to council, if not this year, the beginning of next. And that's it. If anybody has any questions.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Sean, I'm just wondering, do the businesses all know that they need to apply for a permit or something when they're doing the parklets? Is that something that they need to, there's a process that they need to go through? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so when we passed the urgency ordinance and the outdoor activities permit, we were one of the first to do it with Mill Valley. I was on a task force to do that. And we kind of jump-started it with Mill Valley. And so they do know that because I have spoken to probably almost every business that would want to do it. And we sent out flyers and talked to people. And it actually, what's great about the urgency ordinance and the outdoor activities permit, it gave us a lot more leeway to work with the process. And so we can actually get people, they can apply and usually get a permit within like 1 to 2 days. And we actually work with each person individually and how they're doing it and setting it up and then tweaking it with them. It's been a very hands-on actually permit process. And I like it because it also gets us better in touch with the community, the businesses, and trying to help them. I think Rebecca even did something, I think, in front of her place.
Yep.
How did that process go?
Fantastic. And Dimitri was great to work with. And I mean, he met me like 2 hours later on site, took pictures. I turned my paperwork in. I mean, it was like a 48-hour turnaround. It's temporary. And so obviously if like Jilly's wants to do something or any of the restaurants at Red Hill, I feel like whatever you're applying to downtown is different than what happens on our private property. That's the caveat. And so I am kind of curious about the whole kind of inequity with the parklets downtown. Like, that's great that Cucina can do all that, but what if a restaurant can't afford to do all that? What if like DG Cafe, they're new and they don't know yet if they're going to even make money enough to afford a parklet or invest in a parklet? And I'm a little concerned about it being kind of mishmashy if it is going to end up being permanent downtown from an aesthetic standpoint. Have you guys talked about, you know, like longboard or whatever what is it called? Longboard, long way?
Long way, yeah.
Gorgeous, but it was like thousands and thousands of dollars, and it makes like poor Hilda's look really janky.
Yeah, well,
what's kind of the plan for like, you know, not screaming inequity along that street?
Well, when you say inequity, I mean, we are in a free market system. And so it's kind of up to each individual in terms of how much money and time and effort they want to spend. That I can tell you that I went to Hilda's probably half a dozen times trying to get them to do a parklet. And finally, the only reason they even got to do it is because I actually dragged the barricades over there myself to help them set it up. So I think we have to be careful, especially now, and maybe, you know, as we move forward. If we put too many roadblocks in the way, it's just going to make it really hard. So letting somebody do something very simple like Hilda's, or something more complex like, you know, the long way, I think is fine right now. Maybe moving forward, if you wanted to get into aesthetics and things, I do think there's something nice. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit different, but I kind of like the eclectic mix of things. You know, Cucina is going to do something nice, but it's going to be very different from what the long way is doing. And we could get into design standards. I've been obviously more worried from a public works perspective about drainage and flood control, and a building perspective about ADA and fire issues. But if you guys want to address that, you can. I do, like right now, I do think the most important thing is keeping it simple. Like usually the biggest hurdle right now for people is to actually call their insurance and indemnify the town, which usually takes like half an hour, you know? And so like, but moving forward, if we go to an indefinite permit, we can look at, do we want to, you know, put guidelines on it? But I can't speak to the fact that there's an inequities in terms of how much someone can afford to do something or not. I think that's kind of up to the individual, and you can build something really nice if you put more of your own labor in it. So
can I add some comments on that?
Sure.
Yeah, so thanks. So you know, Rebecca, thanks for those comments. Look, and I'm gonna keep this at a policy level. So from a policy level, right, COVID will eventually end, and when COVID ends, business will increase, like sort of trying to come to town and all that kind of stuff. And what they will ask is, they will ask the existing businesses, how did the town treat you? Was there certainty? Was there guidance? Was the council responsive from a policy perspective? Which I think we have been. We were nimble. With the guidelines though, I don't see it from an equity perspective. I think probably the most fruitful path would simply be, can we simply set a floor from some sign of design flood perspective, so that when new businesses come in, they feel they can do what they want. On a certain level, I don't want to be in a position where, from a policy perspective, we're punishing, successful entrepreneurs that want to make an investment that benefits themselves while also improving the economic vitality of our community. Something I've been thinking about, and I will provide it for our next discussion, is a picture of a parklet in Ross. And what I found intriguing was, and I am not a builder by any means, it seemed to be fairly low cost relative to sort of the only one people sort of talk about is Longway or some of the ones done in San Francisco, yet at the same time, malleable and inexpensive. So it's that kind of thing that I think might serve as what might be an effective floor as businesses want to sort of create their own aesthetic space in our town. Thanks.
And I just like to throw
I like.
out there, if you guys haven't been, or if anybody does get out, San Francisco is a great place to go look at. They have hundreds of parklets on Chestnut, North Beach, and they're very eclectic. There's ones made out of blocks, there's ones made out of plants, there's ones made out of pallets. And actually, I think it's pretty cool, but that's me. Sorry, Benedetto.
Benedetto?
Yeah, no, yeah, thank you. A quick comment, all merchants are equal, but some merchants are more equal than others. So if they want to spend more money, please spend more money, because if we impose, I don't even understand, I'm sorry, Rebecca, the meaning of equity in this case, but equity, it would be that everybody is going to spend the least. It's going to be the lowest possible level. So please let's not get into that. But about parameters, Sean, I believe that one concern, at least I had, and at one point, I bet you will come up from the insurance companies of each restaurant, it is safety from traffic. So maybe, let's not focus on the aesthetics, also because if they stay for good, people will improve them slowly. When they see that they work, they will spend more money. But sometime I see, would I really want to be sitting there with traffic coming through and somebody, texting and running over the table? So maybe that's something that from your point of view, when it comes down to, regulations, rules, should be considered. They got to be safe for the people sitting at the table, because sooner or later, somebody's going to eat people dining. I mean, even I'm sorry, I go back to my obsession, the U-turns here in front of Comfort, when they sit, they miss the barrier by a few inches every time now.
So traffic is a good one to address, because I think there's actually a misunderstanding to some degree. When we first started, we were giving barriers. There was the light barriers, but then there's also the traffic rated K rails that we were giving pretty much to everybody, telling them to put water in them. A lot of the parklets that are being built are actually obviously parallel with traffic. And if you think, here's a way to think about this. And I'm not saying, do cars drive up on the sidewalk all the time and kill people? And, sorry to say it that way, but no, they don't. It does happen. It's an accident. But, a barrier, especially if it's more permanent parklet with, you can design it so the planners are designed for traffic impact. And as we're going more permanent, we are looking at that. If you look at planters and other things, and even putting up, like cones or warnings, sticker tape that reflective tape that shows that there's something there at nighttime. But I would say, like, if someone's going to drive into a parklet, they could also just drive up on the sidewalk. Just FYI. So.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, sorry, yeah, but cars are parked usually between the pedestrians and the traffic. In that case, the barrier is right there. But I'm just saying that is something to consider, because I believe will be an issue at one point from the insurance companies.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones setting safety all the time. Impose on us regulations.
So the long-term ones, like the Longway and Cucina, a car would have to be moving, probably over 30 miles an hour to crash through them. So that the idea is to try to get them to the point where they're like rated for 20 to 30 miles an hour traffic.
Okay,
so.
Good to know. Thank you.
I have a question myself. I know parking in the past has always been a problem, especially for the downtown. Parklets, are we keeping an eye on, the effects of long-term parking, and, how are we going to deal with that in the future?
So right now we are only giving the parking spaces in front of the businesses. So you get your spaces in front of your business. We haven't been thinking about it long-term. However, mean, yes, we have, but not from more from a just high level. Scott did a parking study, and what the parking study has shown to us is that there really isn't a parking problem. It's a parking management and a parking misunderstanding problem where people think there isn't parking. It's unusual that we seem to have a population that if you can't park immediately in front of the store that you're shopping at, that there's no parking. Even with what was going on with shutting the avenue down, and there was literally hundreds of spaces available at the Magnolia lot, the Pine Street parking lot, the Creek Street parking lot, and on San Rafael Avenue. So I don't think there are any parking problems, to be honest with you. We have plenty of parking. It's just, are people willing to walk, sometimes 100 feet, that's really the issue, I think.
Jessica, can I speak to that?
Yes.
So I don't think there's a parking problem at all. And by that I say I get a lot of stuff on council, and the only thing I ever heard and got any kind of response from the consumers, i.e. residents, was one resident who found that the signs were kind of confusing. I think the parking problem should really be cast as, what do we want the streetscape of one of our business districts to look like in the short term and in the long term? Because I think framing it like that makes it balances the short term versus the long term needs. We sort of confine it to, we're actually talking about one of our only 3 business districts, to be fair. And 2, we actually involve all the stakeholders, right? I mean, I'm not entirely sure that the streetscape should be given over entirely to cars. And there's not other stakeholders whom have just as much, if not a greater claim to our streetscape. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, any other questions for Sean before he runs to his next meeting? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Sean. Great job. Okay, Rebecca, you're up next with Jamie on the welcome and onboarding program.
Okay, great. So we started this process, and the time is a little interesting because we started about a month ago. So the businesses that had just recently opened, we did our outreach to them. But we were a little, we were probably 3 weeks behind where we want to be, 4 weeks behind. So some of them had already opened, but they had not joined the chamber, therefore had not started going to the Wednesday networking meetings that Pat at Creekside puts on with Benedetto. And so they, we're just catching them right after opening, but still the outreach is going well. Personally, we've set up a few events at the new Boutique Bella for like shopping events where we bring food down or whatever. Like I said, I went to D&G before they opened. They did not know about the grant program. So he got his application in just in the nick of time, I think 2 days before they were due. And then this morning I asked him about it and he said he hasn't heard yet. So I think that timing was a little odd. Now we're at the point in a great way where Elise gives me a heads up when someone applies for a permit to open a business in town. And that's we're catching them on the front end, and we really help them to join the chamber before they even open, or network with their neighbors before they even open. Talk to them about even business hours. D&G closes at 3 o'clock today, and I told them it's going to be an issue. Like once school's in session, they're going to want to be open later because all those kids and parents are flooding down San Anselmo in an ideal world. So just talking to them about the town has been great. And as far as the website, if you look at it now, it looks much better. I know Jessica, you guys have been working really hard on cleaning it up and making it more obvious where new businesses should go. Right at the top of the page now, it says business. So if you are a business in San Anselmo, you know where to click, and it directs you to all of the resources for not just permitting, but joining the networks, joining the chamber, schedules, ideally schedules for classes, when ski weeks are, so people kind of understand the dynamic of our town. There's going to be a pop-up opening called Utility Goods. I wanted to get a little more information if we have that. if I should reach out to them or not. I'm not sure what that looks like, but it sounds like they're going to do a pop-up maybe in front of Creek Park or down by the library. And then the other business that I cannot seem to connect with is the new beauty business that's opening next to Enchiladas at the bank. She's really hard to get a hold of, but I have done some outreach with her.
And just to let you know, Rebecca, we're going to go live with starting to announce the new businesses in our next newsletter that's coming out. So we'll be working with you on that as well. So Jamie, did you have anything to add? Are we good on that report out? Any questions?
We're good. Thanks, Rebecca. Great update.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
from committee or comments?
I have a comment, if that's all right.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I stopped by D&G, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Spoke to the owner and I said, hey, what's going on? You know, how you doing? He goes, oh, you know, Rebecca stopped by from the EDC. I was like, that's totally awesome. You know, Rebecca, thanks. You were out there, you executed, you put in the work. It was great. Clyde was super excited, and I really just want to say, you know, thanks for doing the work.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca.
Great job.
Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from the public on this before we move to the next?
No, there's none.
None? Okay. Kim is unfortunately not here to report out on targeting and attracting desired businesses. Rich, I know you had you're going to present the branding guidelines to the town. Did you want to just give a quick report out on that?
Just to say that I think the last meeting I suggested that I would have a draft of the brand standards and the guidelines for this meeting and to distribute it. And once I put it together, I realized that there are a whole lot of holes in it that can only be answered by the town and the staff relative to how things get implemented and monitored, executed, along the lines of some of the questions we had about Sugarfoot and how he gets used and abused. These are really more procedural things relative to how they create documents, how they create information that gets disseminated that would be branded. So we determined that it probably makes more sense to have a meeting with the town and fill in those blanks and then share it with the committee.
Thanks so much, Rich. We'll put you on the agenda for next meeting. Any comments or questions from committee members?
The only question I would ask is, Elise, are you the person that we can be the gatekeeper for setting up get-togethers with whoever we need to talk to? If Elise is there. Or Dave, what would be the protocol for getting together with the appropriate staff to go through some of these?
You can go through me or Elise. I was involved in the early discussions, and I want to make sure I keep my finger on the pulse of how we're kind of trying to control the brand. So either way.
Okay, Dave, why don't I do this? I'll send you a copy with margin notes saying this is what we need here, this is what we need here, and then you can.
That'd be perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
Rich.
Any public comments? Okay, then I'm going to move to the next, which is my section, which is on communication, marketing, and PR. I just wanted to let you know that we went to the council on October the 27th and was able to present the accomplishments of the EDC for 2019 through 2020. And we also presented the draft of the action plan. We received a lot of positive feedback. There were no requests for changes. We received, we got another newsletter out on October 21st. We're going to switch to the new format this week and start highlighting like new businesses in town and media mentions and really kind of get that broad spectrum going in terms of newsletters. One of the things that's most important is the contact list. And I know that right now we're working on the business license insert, which is going to be able to collect more information about contact, such as email, phone number, and then the demographics. Because, for example, if a business is saying, I'd really like to be advised when street cleaning is happening, on the avenue, but we don't have the email addresses right now of all of the businesses. It would be great to be able to have that contact information. So as we move forward with trying to get and meet the needs and expectations of our town, the businesses, to be able to have that information is going to be a gold mine for us as moving forward, huge resource. So the contact list, business license insert is going to be going out in the next couple of weeks. The resource center on the website has had lots of changes. It's a fluid in progress work that's being done. Again, it has the button business. I recommend everybody take a look at it. It's in process. And we're going to be really doing a formal analysis of it this week and then start implementing some more changes. One thing that will be also great to add to this is the ability to capture two-way communication. And for me, obtaining improvement ideas that we can bring to our EDC, it's the voice of our businesses. What can we do? What are their recommendations? That's going to be part of the resource center as well. One thing I want to do is remind everybody, if you could send me your photographs, I need a close-up of a photograph or whatever you love, what's your best photograph, and maybe 250 words about yourself, so that, because I'd like to create a page that has information about who we are and what we're doing. An email address has been started, edc@townofsananselmo.org. Social has accounts have started being created. And again, I think that two-way communication is something that is going to be part of our communication process. And Zoom brainstorming and improvement ideas are good things on that. So that's what I have to report on questions. Kelly?
I had a quick question. So you talked about collecting emails. You're doing that on the website? Is that what you're saying? You're collecting it? Do you have a button on the website where people can input their emails, the businesses can?
Right now, what we're trying to do is, and that's a great idea. Right now, what we're doing is we're including an insert with the business license bills that are going out, saying we need your contact information, and asking them to fill in all of this information that we would be able to use at a later time. We can, if you'd like, put something on the resource center where people can give us, it's like your email address, your contact information, add us to the newsletter, that sort of thing.
We just have a pop-up, that comes up when people go on there that says, put your email in, so that it's
we do not, because it's the town's website, so it's not, but we can take a look at that.
Okay.
In terms of, because I think the email addresses are the gold mine.
Yeah, I was also just wondering, so when the insert, is it something that they fill out manually, or is it does it a note that sends them to the website? It's a manual fill out?
It's a manual at this
Can
point.
we do like a QR code and have it go directly to a landing page where they just fill it out, so they could I just want to make it more actionable.
Yeah. Elise?
Dave might actually, can you answer that one?
Yeah, I think we can possibly, I've done a lot of QR codes, and I think we could probably figure out, we have ways to create sort of online forms. We'd have to look at it. Unfortunately, we're probably behind the private sector and our technology, but I think
you're hamstrung by your system. I know that, but I just know that the fewer steps we have, the better. And I just think that if we can just get them to write to the landing page where they need to fill out that information, and then we at least get their email.
Yeah, well, that makes
a business license page on the resource center right now. That we have that. So, we could work offline and see what we could do to make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't, unfortunately, they can't renew online. And that's what we're shooting for. So you get a notice or an email and you say it's time to renew, and they'd hop online. That's our goal. That's where we're going to be.
Okay.
But right now it's still very manual. But I think if the request is to get the data, get the email and phone number, maybe there's a way for them to come and put their business name, their email and phone number on and that would just be a separate database that we could then pull from to add to the list.
Yeah.
Been creating. That does make sense. I think we could probably figure that out.
Okay.
We just got to get some of our, younger folks to help us.
Yeah, because then also when you are online with your permitting, you'll be ready to go. You'll be just.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Okay.
And it is. It's clunkier to do it with paper. It's kind of almost, it just doesn't
It's
really
old.
make sense to do it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just think they set it aside, they're gonna do it later, or they don't turn it in, or they don't, it's just, you're risking completely losing them.
Yeah.
We didn't even renew our business license, like our annual, because it expired and I didn't even know. So
Oh, yeah. So that, yeah, we
found
need to-
out. I don't even know how I found out.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's just needs that prompt, so if there's
Yeah.
anything if there's anything we can do to help you with the software, let us know, like if that's.
Yeah, no, we'll take a harder look at it. We, like I say, we have, people that know our software has capabilities that could probably allow us to do it. It would just
Okay.
be a separate from the actual turning into the business license. It would be
Yeah.
something that, so we just got to make sure we're not asking people to duplicate things.
Yeah,
But
and
maybe
the
you could just
ultimate
let
goal-
them,
The ultimate
ahead.
goal is to have it automated, everything
Yeah.
automated. And
That's the
because
town,
again,
we've
Google
had,
wants
yeah,
the data.
it's
And
a,
that's why Google is so worth so much money right now, is that
Yeah.
it's the data. And that's,
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and that's
and
what
for-
will help us as we move forward with rolling out whatever we want to roll out. So
Yeah, and with the ultimate goal of, in the next year, trying to get something that just allows people to get that notice, go right to and get their business license,
mhm.
get reminders by email. That's where we need to be. But for now, we're going to have to work with what we have.
yeah, so maybe just let them know this is the interim step, like this is
Yeah,
coming,
exactly.
we're gonna go online, but we need your information, and yeah, okay, sorry.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Any other comments?
Yeah, this is Brian. I have a comment. Can I just take a couple minutes? So unsurprisingly, I heard Jessica's presentation before council. I want to say, Jessica, thanks for coming. And one of the threads of the conversations that we had before is, what is the role relative to the EDC relative to town council? Town council looks to the EDC for economic development. And a lot of that confidence on council comes obviously from having a couple of liaisons, but it also comes from the annual reports by the chair, right? Like, is the chair in touch with the committee and all that kind of stuff? And I just want to say, Jessica, thanks again for coming, making yourself available. As John knows, your presentation was extremely well received. The other thing, Jessica, I want to say is, when do we plan to? When are we going to end this? I have a couple comments I'd like to make for the entire group before people start to leave. And I just want to make sure I get those in.
I was hoping because I'm done with the communication, the last thing that we really need to work on is I need to hear a report out from Benedetto on what's happening with the marketing program, and then also with what you want to close. So can we hear a short, is Benedetto on and ready to give us a report out on the marketing program that's being designed by the chamber? Is he there?
I see his square, but he's muted and his camera is off. I'm not sure if he's at this computer right now.
Okay, well, until he comes, Brian, you've got the floor.
I'm here.
Oh, wait a
there he
second. There we go. Okay. So Benedetto, can you give us a report out on what's happening with the
Yeah.
marketing program?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, the most important is the recovery fund, the grant. We closed the second round of disbursements literally yesterday. We reviewed them. We decided late September to offer the opportunity again for a second round. So we close now for good. We raised a total of almost $81,000 something net of the GoFundMe fees. So that's what we actually raised. And we have disbursed, including the second round of checks that are going out literally today, I have them here on my desk, 44,000 in grants to town merchants and businesses. And so we have now a balance of about 37,000 for the, I don't think marketing plan is the right name, but anyway, we refer to that for now. And we start having meetings, having a guideline, and then clearly we'll ask everybody involved who wants to be involved, ideas and opportunities. So that's where we are at. Again, $44,000, I believe, for a small relatively small town like ours has been a great project, and thanks to the generosity of the individual donors and the town and the county. So thanks again to the town for the generosity and to all the donors. So that's important for the chamber. And yes, the DNG is getting a check. He's approved. He's sent in the application. Thank you, Rebecca, for letting him know. Literally, I think the last day available. So I have a check for him.
Snuck it in there.
And again, yes, we had to get the new merchants when they, even before they open, so we can offer them the ribbon cutting and everything else from the chamber. So
thank you so much. I have
Thank
a
you.
quick question. The EDC has really held off on, we've decided that, marketing, because of what you've got going on, was going to be really chamber. I mean, we're doing some of our marketing and communication, especially with the new launch. When do you anticipate being able to move forward on the marketing piece? Because I know a lot of our business owners are really, really asking us about that. And we keep saying it's, over to there. So do you have a timeline?
yeah,
for that?
I don't have a timeline because again, it's all volunteers. We are trying our best to make it happen. I have already written a draft of what I believe should be the goals. But I believe got to be very clear from the merchants that the community foundation has disbursed the grants, so the money for the marketing plan is not going to go to any individual business. It's going to go to possibly medium. It's not enough money to do any long-term project, but it's not going to give money to individual businesses. We're trying to see how the best return from that amount it is on the medium term, possibly finding again matching funds with different agencies on a whatever percentage basis to make permanent projects to happen. So to help the town literally by all means and the merchants. So again, if they ask you the timeline because they expect more money directly to them, I want to be clear that's not the goal of this second phase of that fundraiser. That has been clear since the beginning.
Thank you so much, Benedetto. Any questions from any of the committee
I have a
members?
question. I have a question. I'm just so an idea of that money would be like paying for the lights to be strung downtown, or like what are some ideas of how that money would be spent? And
some people ask for the lights. I believe that could be a permanent, we can go to the town and the county and every possible, we give 10,000, the town can give 5,000. I'm just running, throwing numbers to make it. That could be a bigger sign. We discussed that actually with the EDC years ago about the entrance on Tansted from Sir Francis Ray, maybe. We don't have the money to do that. We know it's way more expensive than the money we have. Could be online marketing, again, could be different. We are receiving every possible idea. I think the biggest decision to make is the target of the marketing. Personally, but again, I go by the consensus of the board, is that local merchants should be able to attract local customers because they know them personally. So any effort by the chamber, by this project, should be to attract people up from out of San Anselmo because they're harder to reach, to make people from the county, from the Bay Area, for example, from Sonoma, come to San Anselmo, because that's where each individual merchant maybe doesn't have the capacity, Jessica, the email list to attract them. So that should be something I would focus on. Let's bring people to San Anselmo, the customers that local merchants are not reaching to. Pat or Creekside knows everybody in town. Rebecca, they know you a lot. People know Donna at Cucina. They're all local. We need to bring more people in if we want to increase our exposure. So, but that's again, general plan. I've done a lot of destination marketing in my career. I think I can add a lot, but we'll let you know. Absolutely. It's going to be a transparent process.
Thank you so much, Benedetto. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, any questions from the public?
No, there's no questions.
Okay, then I'm going to move forward with handing it over to Brian Colbert, our soon-to-be mayor.
Soon to be, actually, no, Jessica, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to share anything. Thanks. I'm good.
Okay, all right. So with that, I am going to ask if there are any future agenda items that people would like to have added. We've got the December 8th, we've got strategic planning. Anything else in the future? Please email to myself or Elise. And anything else that we have 4 more minutes, anything else new in San Anselmo that anybody wants to talk about?
Go
Actually,
eat.
Jessica, I have a question. So
Yes.
would people like for me to send them these 2 economic development plans that are coming out of San Mateo and San Francisco? I'll just share them out to you, Jessica, and people can take a look at them.
Okay.
They're
Yeah,
what
I
I'm using as
definitely would
templates.
like to. And I
Yeah.
know Elise and I are going to be attending an economic development forum, which is online.
Yeah,
So,
I'll share them out. You can
Okay.
distribute them.
Hey, Brian, see if you can get an idea how much the lights cost to run and install in San Rafael. I mean, that's such a beautiful, they did such a beautiful job there. I'd be curious if it's something.
Oh,
feasible for
Rebecca,
our town.
I've already asked. I will tell you, the only thing I've already asked, I know that yes, I've already been in touch with the San Rafael Chamber and been put in touch with the head of the BID. So it's a good point. I will keep working at it and I will get back to the
Jay's
committee on
a
that.
resident, by the way. Jay, who's got the light shop that does all the lights all over Marin, all hung up. He lives in between you and I, Rebecca. Really nice guy, young family.
I think the interesting
figure
thing,
out how to-
Jamie, is who paid for it. I know it was
Oh,
I know
yeah,
it was a portion
right.
of the BI. I know it was a portion of the BID that paid maybe a significant portion.
As I said that, I was like, oh shit, he's gonna charge us double.
Okay.
Watch the language, Jamie. It's a public meeting. There might be children listening. Thank you.
Okay, we've got another 2 minutes. Any other, anything anybody else wishes to discuss at this point? Okay, I officially close this meeting. Thank you so
I'll
much.
just report on the new law office. So the Planning Commission approved an addition.
Are you there? Elise? Elise, we cannot hear you.
Oops, you called me. I was just gonna report that the Planning Commission, oh, sorry, I have audio problems.
We can hear you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the Planning Commission approved an addition for the building that used to be Mosier Construction on Red Hill Avenue. So Elizabeth Breckus, who's a resident of Ross, but she and her dad have had a law practice in Green Bay for many, many years. She'll be opening up her law practice at that location and doing a large addition to the, well, small, but large for us.